We're continuing our family reboot series where we are talking about the fundamental things that God teaches about the family. So if your family is in disarray or if your family has some dysfunction, these are things that you can do to kind of hit the reboot button, to reset the whole process and get it back to the family God desired. Now, the first several weeks, so I think the first 6 weeks through this, we have looked at things that you can do to help build your family, okay? Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the things that you do in your family that can actually destroy that very family, the things that can actually kill that process, and we're going to take some time and look at that. Now, the reason we're going to do that is this. I do not want you unintentionally sabotaging your family. I don't want you to. I don't want you to. God doesn't want you to. And He doesn't want you just out of ignorance or not being aware of it, doing things that actually hurt your family members and hurt your family dynamics that stops you from being the family God desires for you to be. So it is an issue that we need to look at as a church and as Christian families. Where we're going to start this morning, as usual, is we're going to look at the scriptures and we're going to see what God says. And here's the deal. God doesn't come out with a lot of specifics on this one. What are the things that destroy a family? He gives you a lot of things which we've covered the last 6 weeks of the principles to put into your family. But He doesn't come out and give you all the specifics and go, these are the things that will hurt it. And I think one of the reasons is because cultures change and those family killers change from time to time. But here's some things that I can tell you from Scripture that we see. Here's the first thing. In 2 Corinthians 2:11, Paul writes this, and he's talking about some church issues. And at the end of his statement, he says this, so that Satan will not outsmart us, for we are familiar with his evil schemes. Paul comes out and he's kind of talking to the church, and he says at the end, so that Satan won't outsmart us. We don't want Satan to get the best of us. And then he says a weird thing. He says, so that we are familiar with his evil schemes. And what you get a sense from Paul is this. I know how Satan works. I know how Satan attacks. I know what Satan does. And this morning, I want you to know the same thing about your families, how Satan attacks, so that you are familiar with it so you can avoid it. Okay, because here's the other thing that we learn about Satan from 1 Peter. From Peter, he says, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. Prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. What else we know about Satan is this. He is looking for ways to get at you and your family. He is looking for wedges to put in your family, to divide you, to get you separated from the family so that he can attack individually different aspects of you and ravage you and destroy you as a family. Because he is a lion looking for opportunities. And you need to understand that Satan is ruthless, and Satan will use every opportunity he can to destroy you and wreck you and destroy your effectiveness for the kingdom of God and to destroy your family for the same reasons. Okay? So that's why we need to talk about this. Your families are no different than any other aspect of your life. If you want to be successful at it, the first thing you do is you know the traits and you need to know the information to be successful at whatever you're doing. Same thing with a family. We've done that for 6 weeks. But at the same time, to be successful in life in any aspect, you also have to know the things that can actually ruin you, right? If you are smart in your business, if you're smart in your craft, if you're smart in whatever you're doing, your best thing is to find out what you need to do it well and to talk to people who have done it, who have failed, and figure out what they've done that has caused failure in their life so you can avoid it. Is that true? If you guys are smart enough, you know that one. You go out and you go, what caused you to fail? Okay, thanks for that advice. Now I can try to avoid it. That's what we're going to do today. Is I'm going to go here to things as a minister, as reading counseling books, as doing personal counseling, things that will ravage your family, things that will destroy your family, and really they are family killers. And there are 4 big ones that we're going to talk about this morning. So let's talk about them. Here are the 4. The first one is this. And I would say this is probably, of the 4, I would say this is probably the most destructive. It would be this, entertaining divorce as a possibility. What I mean by that is this, that you in your marriage constantly have in your head divorce is an option that I can use if I need to in my marriage. We have gotten so comfortable with divorce, I think we just see it as normal now. Let me give you some numbers on it in America, why I think we've gotten so used to it. 43% in 2011, 43% of first marriages ended in divorce. 43%. People that were married a second time, that jumped up to 63% of those marriages failed, were divorced. Marriages that have people that have been married 3 times, jumps up again, 74% of those, 3/4 of someone that's on a third marriage, that marriage will fail as well. We see divorce everywhere. And a unique thing that you probably don't know, Oklahoma in the year 2009 was the second highest divorce rate of all the states in the union. We were the second highest. The only place that had higher, I think, was Alaska, which might surprise you. But if you can think about living trapped inside your house, never getting away from your spouse for like 9 months a year, you can start to figure that one out. So yeah, I can see how that's a higher divorce rate. But Oklahoma, for whatever reason, we're in the middle of the United States, and for whatever reason, we are the second highest divorce rate in the union in 2009. And 2010, I think we were third. So we experience divorce here on a higher level than just about any place else in the nation, and we have become comfortable with it. Now, here's what God says about divorce. And let me just warn you, He is not PC about it, okay? God doesn't care that you live in America and divorce is normal and acceptable anymore. Here's what God's opinion is. God says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 10 through 11, Paul writes, "But for those who are married, I have a command that comes not from me." And he differs on this one. This isn't even from me, as Paul says. He says, "but from the Lord." This is directly from God. Paul, at the time of writing this statement, knew exactly, without a doubt, God is inspiring me right at this moment to write this line, and this is not from me, this is from him. And he says, "A wife must not leave her husband, but if she does leave him, let her remain single or else be reconciled to him." So he says a wife must not leave her husband. Now, in the scriptures, we see one possible reason for acceptable divorce in God's eyes, and that is where a partner is not faithful sexually. Okay? And he does seem to give an out in that area for divorce. But in all other circumstances, what he says is a wife must not leave her husband. But if she does, so let's say you have an abusive situation, let's say you have mental abuse or physical abuse or just issues there that are not healthy for anyone, he's saying your option is not divorce. Your option is you separate. You must not leave your husband, but if she does leave him, let her remain single or else be reconciled to him. Okay? And then he kind of gives the same thing to the husband, and the husband must not leave his wife. So same thing, he's going, and husbands, same thing to you. Okay, same teaching to you. This isn't just a wife thing, this is all of you. God comes out and he basically says, don't even have divorce in your vocabulary. Don't even have it in your head. Now, knowing our culture, knowing couples, a lot of us throw the word divorce around fairly casually. Right? It comes out. It is spoken in relationships. Highly destructive. If your kids ever hear it, as we talked about, as Jordan talked about several weeks when he talked, your kids just assume if you fight, you're going to get divorced because they see it so often that if you're not divorced, you're the oddball. So when they see you even fighting at home, they first go, is mom and dad going to get divorced? If they ever hear you verbalizing it, even if you're not totally serious about it, they're going to have that heightened expectation even more, and it adds to even more fear and insecurity in your kids, which hurts your family dynamics. You need to remove that word from your vocabulary, from your thought process, from even being something you even comprehend as a Christian. And let me tell you why it becomes so destructive. I phrase it this way, and let me read this word for word. When we keep divorce an open door, it keeps us always looking for a way out rather than looking for a way in. Here's what I have experienced. When you go in with the thought of divorce as a possibility, whenever things get tough in your marriage, what you start doing, because I deal with people like this all the time, what you start doing is, what options do I have to get out? Is this enough for me to get out? As a Christian, did they cross enough of a line for me to get out? Is this unhealthy enough for me to get out? Can I divorce them and go off and start a new family, start a new life? And what you do is you spend all of your time going, how do I get out? Rather than how do I get in? And what I mean by get in is this. How do I get into my partner's heart? How do I make the effort to win back their heart and get into their heart? How do I do that? So I would tell you, what's the big killer of divorce in your mindset? It totally affects how you respond to difficulties in your family, because your perspective gets very warped when divorce becomes a potential of you just walking away. You need to go into it going, that's just not really an option. That's not an option. Now, if you came to me and said, my husband or my wife physically beats me, are you telling me I can't get out? Absolutely not. I'm telling you, you can't get out and go out with someone else. I'm telling you, go get safety, separate, live as single, whatever you need to do. You get out so you're safe, and then you try to reconcile that relationship and see if it can come back to someplace that's healthy. That's what you try to do. Your option is not, hey, Scott, because I get this from minister, am I biblically okay to leave this person, divorce them here? I'm held to the word of God. No, I can't tell you are. The only way I can is one instance. If they're sexually unfaithful to you, then you seem to have an out. But Scripture there doesn't say run either. Okay, God doesn't say there, go do that. God actually says, I hate divorce. I don't like it. That's not my desire even in that case. But if you need to, go. All right, does that make sense? But this is a tough one. In our culture today, because a lot of you grew up in divorced families, you've seen it personally. It's just part of your DNA. You've got to change it. You've got to let the Spirit of God change that thought process in your mind and go, that's not an option. I have to see this through. I have to stick it through. And I guarantee you, God can do incredible things when you're willing to stick stuff through and put it in God's hands and follow His path. God can work miracles. They're not always easy miracles. They're not always fast miracles. But God can work miracles. So the first and foremost family killer, when you keep divorce just right beyond the hairline and you just keep it sitting up there waiting for a card to pull out whenever something gets tough. Okay? So that's number one. Second huge family killer is this. It's a lack of quality family time. Did some research on this, and there's two aspects of quality family time. There is family time and there's quality. Okay, so let me first start with the time side of things. Here's what I found. In the year 2000, the typical American family spent 33 hours a month together as a whole. That means where everyone in the family, they were all together at the same time, in the same house, together, spent an average of 33 hours in waking moments where they spent together as actually like a communicating family, functioning family. 33 hours a month. That is, I was kind of shocked by that. That is 1 hour a day on average. When the average family's all together in the same room, actually communicating and being a family. And then I started to think about it and went, that's probably not too far off. Can most of you see that? How many, raise your hand if you go, yeah, I can see that. Okay, so 33 hours a month. By 2010, a decade later, that dramatically shifted. Let me tell you what you have now. In 2010, the average was down to 18 hours a month the average family spent together as a family together in the same room communicating. That comes down to slightly over 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day. You want to know why our families are falling apart? That could be a huge reason. We don't spend a lot of time with our families anymore. Let me give you from the research what they say are the three biggest issues with that, the three biggest time suckers that prevent families from spending time together anymore. Number one, obviously, was work. And some of it was because of the culture we're in, now having to have dual working incomes to just pay the bills. Some of it is because of the consumer-driven mindset that we always have to have bigger, more. So we're willing to sacrifice our families to earn a bigger paycheck in order to get bigger houses, nicer cars, more possessions. And we will put our family to the side in order to work overtime and everything else, or take job promotions that take a lot more time from our families just in order to acquire more stuff. And we start to kill our families going, but I have nicer stuff. Okay? That was the biggest problem at the time. The second one was this, that they identified sports. Sports. is the families that are working, then you add sports on top of it. And some of you know this, you can get stuck in this game where if you have 2 or 3 kids in two or three different sports, you literally are never home. How many of you have ever lived that life? Okay, that's like about half the younger families in here, where you literally are gone constantly at a sporting event. And what they say is this, and I can even say this, you are not sharing family time when you're at sporting events. A lot of times parents think we're doing family time because we're together at the sporting event. No, you're not. Your kid's on the field and doing something. You're sitting on the stands. You feel good because you're supporting them and you feel like they know you're here watching them. That doesn't make up for spending time at home, talking with each other, and just being at home together as a family. You're just spending time out somewhere else, but it is not family time. Okay? The third one they identified was this, just other activities in life, and they said one of the biggest ones was friendships. Was people that feel like they always have to be on the go with friends and being out with friends after they have a home with children, and they feel like they have to be out all the time. And being out all the time, again, you are not experiencing family time. You are out in groups. Your kids are with other kids. Your kids are doing other things. You're doing things with adults. And you are not experiencing a family time where you're together and talking. And they said that's a big time consumer. Some of you, just to be honest, you have work, you have sports, and you have the outside activities with friends, which means that 18 hours a month for some of you might be down to like 2, where you're spending 10 minutes a day, maybe at best, with your whole family together. That's one side of the family killer here, which is the lack of quality time, family time. The other side of it is quality. Okay? First, you need to get some good time with the family. Second part is, when you are together, it has to be quality time. Now, what does quality time mean? Hard to say, but I can say this. Let me give you the reverse side. What you need to watch out for is anything in your family that promotes isolation from the family. When you are together, things that promote you to separate and isolate from each other when you're in your house. Let me tell you what some of those things are. There's 2 biggies. One is this, not just TV, but TV in multiple rooms. Okay? If you have TV in multiple rooms, you are unintentionally setting up isolation within your home. Because what you're doing is even if you're all home, you're allowing people to separate into different areas to watch their own individual things, and you're not together anymore. What they say is the best thing to do is you have one TV in a central location, and if you're going to watch TV, you all watch it together, and you can actually have some decent family time watching it all together. But you do not have every kid. Real quick, I got a whole row of teenagers. How many of you have a TV in your room at home? Yeah, who are your parents? No, I'm just kidding. No, they just say that. They say if you have TVs in your rooms at your house, in this day and culture, what you do is you are unintentionally set up isolationism in your house where your kid goes, I want to watch this show, and the adults go, I want to watch this show. Okay, we have time together at home. We could be spending time together, but I'm going to my room, we're going to our area, and we're separated. And you're giving up quality time. Yeah, you're together at home, but you're not getting the quality. The other huge one, and this is becoming the bigger one, computers, cell phones, and tablets. Okay? I think I've referenced this before on Thanksgiving when my entire family gets together. We have 15 people in a room and we have 15 gadgets and we all sit there and play video games on our tablets. We're all in a room together. We can say literally 5 words in an hour together because we're all doing our own things. Okay? That is family time together. It's not quality. Your family. You cannot just have a bunch of electronic things that everybody plays on all the time, and that's what you're doing all the time, and expect you to have good quality family time and have good relationships within your family. Ain't going to work. You might want to think about, hey, we have certain hours, we use them in the house, and we have times that we just put them aside. Parents, I know this kills you because your kids' fingers and thumbs are literally connected to the text button. Okay? I know that, right, Jordan? Is that pretty true? Yeah. They live with their text. You got to get them to put it down at times to be with the family. Teenagers, except for 1 year old, but teenagers, the rest of you, suck it up, spend time with your family. It will be better for you. It will be better for your families. Parents, get some guts and put some demands down and go, hey, family, here's what we're going to do. Why? Because we need to improve our family dynamics. And this is going to be valuable to us. This isn't healthy the way we're doing this, and we're a family. Okay? So, family killer number 2, which is this, lack of family time and quality family time. You need to look at that, identify it in your life, and go, do we have family time, and is it quality when we're getting together? Okay? Third, huge family killer, a desire for relationships to be friendships. This is the next biggie. This goes both ways. Number 1, parents wanting their kids to be their friends. Okay? How many of you see this one in culture? Big pet peeve, right? We all get a big pet peeve on this, and then half of us do it with our own children. Okay? And it's a natural temptation. We want our kids to like us. We want our kids to be like, dude, you're cool to hang out with, and I want to be around you. And we want our kids, I hear this one all the time, my kids can tell me anything. We have a really open relationship, and they can tell me anything. When I did youth ministry, I told those parents, and you're in trouble. Because that means when your kid's doing what they're not supposed to be doing, they don't even have a problem with it anymore because they can tell you and there's no consequences to it. So, hey, I can do anything I want because as long as I tell mom, we're friends and there's no consequences. All you are doing is unintentionally, you are opening the doors for more bad behavior when you try to become their friends. You are to be their parent. Be their parent. Friends do not make their friends do homework. Okay? Friends do not tell their friends, stop watching some TV. Friends do not tell their friends, get off your phone and put your phone away because we're going to spend time as a family. Parents do. Okay? So parents, don't be your kids' friends. Be their good parent. That's what you were called by God to be. Now on the other side, we have our kids that want their parents to be their friends. Kids, your parents aren't going to be your friends. They don't need to be your friends. You don't want them to be your friends, okay? That's not their role. That's not what you're supposed to be desiring. Don't desire for them to be your friends, and don't desire to be on the same level with them because you never will be, okay? Your parents have authority over you. You have to understand this. Your parents are smarter than you when it comes to life decisions and social things in your life. Now, on an education level, you might be smarter than your parents. I'll give you that, okay? We haven't studied in school for years. We've been out of it for quite a long time, and we are very specific on one area of our lives because that's how we make a living now. So you might be smarter. My 9-year-old definitely is smarter than me, and he lets me know all the time. But I constantly remind him I'm smarter about people than he is, and I'm smarter about life choices than he is. Kids, you will never have higher authority than your parents. You will never be smarter than your parents, so you're a parent yourself. Be okay with that. Don't desire for your parents to be your friend. Okay? Accept them for being your parents. Here's one of the problems we have. Teenagers. Most of you are on this side, so I'm going to look over this way now because I don't think I have too many here. Teenagers. You live with a bunch of other kids that don't have parents. They have no parents or they have friendship parents. I know it's very desirable for you to look at them and go, man, I wish I could do everything they could. Let me tell you and be honest with you. Someday, if you have godly Christian parents who are being parents, you will appreciate it. You will look back someday and you will go, thank God I have parents that were parents, not just my buddies. And as hard as it is sometimes to obey them and see your friends get to do whatever they want to do and you can't do all those freedoms, the best thing for you to do is thank God that you have godly parents who put some restrictions on you that actually try to guide you. It will lead you well. It will benefit you hugely in your lives. And remember that, all right? Don't get too mad at them because they put restrictions on you. That is their role from God. You will have your own children someday. You will have to do the same thing. Do not envy your school friends. I had this in my school. My mom, geez almighty, I couldn't walk without getting in trouble. No, I'm just kidding. But we had restrictions at home, and I do remember this. This is one of my biggest struggles as a teenager. I hung out with a bunch of kids that had none, okay? And I always hated it because my friends could do whatever they wanted to, and I had curfews I had to be in at this time, and if I wasn't in on the minute, I was busted. There were no ifs, ands, and buts, and I look back now and go, thank God I had that. Because I see what their lives became, and I saw that they had no guidance and the trouble they got into. They made decisions that affected them for years that had consequences I never did because I had good parents that were parents to me, not my friends. Okay? So that's the third one, is you cannot look for your relationships in your family to be friendships. You have certain roles, okay? The fourth one, that is a huge family killer, is this one, individual selfishness. And that one is this, where you think your desires should rule the family, okay? Now, this goes for dad, this goes for mom, this goes for children, this goes across the board in your families. When selfishness seeps in and you believe you are the most important person in the family and your desires are the ones that always should be met, you will start to destroy your family unintentionally. And you got to be careful. It will kill your family. What you need to do is this. You need to start thinking of your family as a team unit rather than just specific roles. You can't look at yourself and just go, I'm the kid, or I'm the dad, or I'm the mom. You got to go, we're a family. Because every one of you, the decisions you make affect everybody else. Let me take it to the adult side. Parents, if you destroy your relationship between your husband and wife relationship, do you really think it's not going to hurt your kids? Do you think it's not going to have any lasting effects on them for the rest of their lives? Absolutely it will. Before you do stupid things in your life, adults, think about your children, think about your wife, and understand the decisions you make don't just stay with you. They affect everybody in your family. You cannot be selfish. Children, you got to understand the decisions you make affect everybody else in your family. If you have younger siblings, your decisions set a tone for them to follow. If you are constantly in trouble, mom and dad have to give up other things because they have to deal with you all the time. If you're constantly in trouble, your siblings miss out on things because of what you did. If you're like me, you had an older brother who did stupid things, and then it was always assumed I was doing stupid things when I was an angel. But I paid the consequence for my brother Barry's decisions in his life, okay? But the point is this. Everybody in the family, your decisions affect everybody else in the family. Nobody is independent. You cannot be selfish. You are a team. You need to be unified, and you need to think, even if you are a kid, how do my decisions affect the rest of the family? And you will start making better decisions, and you will start having a better family. Okay? Those are the 4 key family killers you need to be aware of. And church, what I warn you is this. You need to be aware of Satan's schemes. He is looking. He is looking for any opportunity he can to get into your family's life, find that little crack, that little wedge that he can pull apart, and he can go after you as individuals and destroy you. That's what his goal is, and he's constantly looking for it, and you need to understand you have an enemy looking for you. So here's what my challenge this week is for you. You should have a program. If you don't, on your way out here, right on the left, you can grab one on the way out. You have the 4 family killers. What I want you to do this week is this. As a couple, as a family, take some time and see any of those that you start seeing this week as you live your life. Okay? Go through there and be like, am I entertaining divorce as a possibility? And is that something that's always in the back of my mind? Or is that something me and my wife or me and my husband, we throw down at each other from time to time? If it is, realize it and circle it and go, that's one of them we've let into our family. Maybe it's a lack of quality family time, and you look at that and go, yeah, we don't spend much quality family time, and when we are together, we're isolated in our home. Circle that one and go, that's one of the issues we've let into our house. Maybe it's a desire for relationships to be friendships, and you've made that into your priority in your household as you go, we're trying to be friends with each other, and you identify that, circle it, and go, got that one. Maybe it's the last one that we just had right there, which is individual selfishness, which is you are selfish, and you start looking this week and realize, you know what, I'm selfish. I want everything to be about me in this family. So what I would ask you there is circle that one. And what you need to do with that is this. Any of them you identify, pray. Take some time and pray about it. And then the next thing you do is you start formulating a plan and go, how do we attack it? How do we find an attack plan to get rid of that from our lives and get that killer out of our lives, out of our families' lives? And the reason for this, and it goes back to what I said last week, folks, we are the last line of defense in this culture, which is Christian families. There is not a moral structure in our country anymore. There is not a family structure that is uniformed in our culture anymore. The last line of defense is us, is your families. We have to work as a team. We have to work with God to have the families God desires so we can start putting this thing back together, family by family by family, because it's on our shoulders at this point. And I take that as serious. God says we are to be shining lights in darkness. That's what our families are to be. So this morning, identify the killers you've let in, pray about them, and remove them so you can start having the family God desires for you to have.